This video is sponsored by Noom. More about them in a minute. Welcome, friends, to that special time of year where RPM dives and the views don't matter. That's right, it's January, and that means it's time to get adventurous and learn about some history that has nothing to do with Rome or even France. Last year, as you may recall, I got really into Muslim and Byzantine history, and this year I thought it's time I really take the plunge into ancient China, by which of course I mean I did a bunch of research for Matt over at Useful Charts about the country's past, and had to desperately restrain myself from making a 52-part series on the entirety of China's dynastic history. So instead, I want to give you just a little taste of the Han Dynasty, China's Rome, if you will. And what better place to start than the man who fought his own family to take the empire to its greatest heights, and then nearly doomed an entire civilization fighting with his own family. The martial emperor, Wu of Han. Happy New Year. Time to lawyer up, hit the gym, get bored of going to the gym, try to cancel your membership to the gym, but realize you're in some sort of a contract with cancellation penalties, or they need you to get a notary, or they just stop answering your calls, right? Wrong! You fool! Weight loss happens in the kitchen, and real sustained weight loss is about more than telling yourself no. Today's sponsor, Noom, helps you cultivate a better relationship with your body. They teach you about calorie density so you can eat well and understand how and when to treat yourself. They share the important psychological principles that underpin your daily habits, and they put you in touch with a coach, a real person trained in psychology, fitness, and nutrition. I love that they start you off easy with nutrition. Just keep track of what you're eating, don't worry too much about the scale yet, but psychologically, day one, they're like, so what's your weight goal? Great, we'll help you get there. Now why are you here with us? Summer body, big event coming up? Okay, awesome. Now why are you really here? Your ultimate why, from the bottom of your soul! So yeah, Noom, pretty cool. If losing weight is part of your plan for 2022, you can go to noom.com/jackrackham to take your free Noom evaluation. It's quick, easy, helps you create your custom plan for the new year. So, everything I say is going into the history book?
Possibly, sir. I was your grand historian and did conduct interviews, but primarily this is just a framing device for the video. You have my utmost discretion. Now, what can you tell me about your family?
Well, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the day Gran went to see a fortune teller. She was just a peasant woman, but your children will be highly honored someday. That'll be 50 copper. Gran took that as a challenge.
You're getting a divorce!
But I love Jinwang Sun.
And I love back rubs and caviar! Get in the wagon!
I was born on the day my father was crowned. He was a wise and gentle Taoist leader.
Who killed his nephew with a chessboard. No, you go fish!
First cousin twice removed, and the game was Liubo.
Your mother was a commoner. How did she become empress?
The first empress couldn't have kids. Dad's next favorite concubine was Lady Li. We're not sure what he saw in her. Auntie Piao offered to hitch Li's son to her daughter. Li turned her down. My mother took her up on it. I got engaged to my cousin at the age of 5. Over time, Lady Li and my father grew apart.
Honey, if I were to be killed in a freak backgammon accident, would you take care of the stepkids?
No. Your Majesty, given the Empress has recently been deposed and Lady Li's son is already the Crown Prince, I've been given a very important message to deliver you. Quote, just make me a f***ing Empress, yeah?
Who sent you?
He pieced it together eventually.
Lady Li.
Auntie Piao, actually, but yeah, that convinced him to give Li the boot.
So your mother became the new empress instead, and you became emperor when your father died. Impressive.
Yes, well, there was just one problem. Gran. Yes, Emperors Wen and Jing established a robust system of welfare while keeping taxes at record lows by cutting unnecessary government expenditures. But at this point, we've cut all we can. And besides, this laissez-faire approach to fiscal policy is fundamentally at odds with our ability to regulate our own currency. Meanwhile, our vassals are taking advantage of that leniency to exploit our subjects. If we were to assume control of all non-central government checkpoints, we could be looking at a government surplus in 15 months, all while decreasing the net burden of the average taxpayer.
Who taught this boy Federalist theory? Was it you?
No, ma'am. Reaching our fingers into the coffers of our vassals would be a dramatic overreach of the central government.
Round up his family! Make him watch!
The handling of personal income by larger governmental bodies necessarily invites economic inefficiencies! She was too powerful. I had to lay low until the time was right.
What's going on in here?
Gran, I was just, snorting coke from this young lady's bosom.
Good kid.
Okay, give me the brief on our relations with the Xiongnu Confederacy. I want everything over the past 30 days. And bring back the champagne.
So, after she died...
Hey, sorry, we're gonna have to cut this whole part because, it's not really gonna work out the way we're doing it with the future.
What? The whole thing? I thought we were doing like another...
Yeah, no, budgetary constraints. There's only so much.
Oh, yes. I suppose that wouldn't make much sense if you were telling me about the future.
But we'll get
Very well, I'll pack up my things.
So Wu grew up to be a very successful emperor. His name means marshal for a reason. He took over lands to the east, the west, the south, and on 2 occasions all he had to do was threaten the possibility of war, and the enemy responded by killing their own leader, and one time giving him their head as a present. Took over Korea too, but the biggest victory was against the Xiongnu in Central Asia. Think of them like the Mongols before the Mongols. For years, China had been paying tribute and entering into marriage alliances in order to avoid war, but the thing is, they never actually stopped raiding the border. So China's response was effectively,
Everyone please remain calm! We have declared peace with the Xiongnu! Please do not provoke them!
It was Emperor Wu who chased them out of the steppes and back towards Siberia, but that martial attitude started to rub off on him in a bad way. He needed strict advisors, guys who know what they want and how to get it, but what he got was guys like Yi Zong. Prisoners, I'm happy to announce that 200 of you will be going home today. In shiny new caskets. I'm only in here for tax evasion. I don't care if you're in here for fishing without a license. Now get in line. I'm just visiting. No excuses. By the time the emperor is around 40, he'd killed a guy for internal defamation, i.e. disagreeing with the emperor in court. He castrated his historian.
No, please, your brother-in-law demonstrated superb military prowess in his flanking maneuver. Not just anyone can march at such a great clip.
He made a law saying government officials who didn't put down peasant revolts fast enough would be killed, so they all just stopped reporting peasant revolts. And he started roaming around the countryside with a flock of magicians, muttering something about immortality. Really giving everyone bad vibes, because that's like exactly what happened before the fall of the Qin dynasty. Though in hindsight, it's hilarious that his official Wikipedia page mentions the national treasury was put under great strain by, quote, magical adventures. Also, witchcraft, that's an important thing to mention. Hated witchcraft. Magicians, sure. Witches, no. Killed some of his own kids for being involved in witchcraft, probably right after they got their Hogwarts acceptance letters. There were a lot of ups and downs that day. Meanwhile, he's got this son, Crown Prince Ju. He's a good kid, not big on the whole obsessive violence thing, but father and son had become isolated from one another. Wu, because the life of an emperor is a blessing and a terrible curse. He could never truly know those around him, who they really are, what they truly believe, so he spent his days in the arms of his young concubines in a vain search for companionship. Ju was isolated because his dad killed all his political allies. So these guys who don't like Ju come into the picture, and they accuse him of witchcraft, and when they go search his home... Oh my god, look, there's this doll and these strange writings that we just found here. I don't know much about witchcraft, but that looks pretty witchy to me. Ju takes up arms against the conspirators, captures and kills one in the capital, but the other one gets away and writes to the emperor saying this is totally proof of Ju being evil. Wu is paranoid, but he's not stupid, and he correctly reads that Ju had something against the guy he killed and was not, in fact, trying to rebel against the empire. So Wu sent a messenger to summon Ju to the palace as a test of character, but the messenger is too afraid to enter the city just in case, so he comes back to the emperor and says, yeah, he's doing a coup, for sure. Ju fights the emperor's men in Chang'an for 5 days, but he ends up having to flee, taking 2 brothers and a small cohort of armed guards with him. The rest of his loved ones were all executed except for his newborn baby grandson, who was thrown into prison. A junior official finally steps forward to tell the emperor that this is all one huge misunderstanding, and Wu actually believes him, but he doesn't want to pardon the prince right away, since it would be awkward given how recently he killed everyone he ever loved. Meanwhile, Ju and Co. are living with a random peasant family who've probably burned through their entire life savings trying to feed them for a month, so Ju tries to call in some favors, gets caught, army shows up at his doorstep, and the most promising future emperor hangs himself. So a few years after this, Emperor Wu finally comes to the realization that if you immediately kill everyone accused of witchcraft, people are going to use that to kill people. So he looks back on his life and he realizes that things really slipped away from him. He's become cruel and paranoid, and so, as a reminder to himself, he built a palace for the late crown prince, and in an act of humility, publicly apologized to the entire nation for all of his mistakes. Trouble is, with Ju dead, Wu's got nobody to make the next emperor. 2 of his sons are spoiled little brats with no respect for the law, so he ends up settling on his youngest son, who was 8 years old when Wu died. But at the very least, the witch hunts were over, the wars of conquest had ended, and the country's ministers had begun to work to ease the people's hardships once again. Except for that baby whom he never released from prison.